Welcome to our 5-minute Bible study, looking, of course, at the book of Revelation. Our last time together, we looked at Revelation chapter 15, which is the preparation for the pouring out of the 7 bowls of God's wrath. We saw the 7 angels receive the bowls and prepared to pour them out, the climactic point of God's judgment. And now as we move into chapter 16, in very quick succession, all of these bowls of wrath will be administered upon the world. Now, of course, in the book of Revelation, we've seen these 3 series of 7s, the 7 seals and the 7 trumpets, and now the 7 bowls. And they all follow a similar pattern. So, for instance, the first 4 of each category of a kind, the first 4 seals, the first 4 trumpets, and we'll see that the first 4 bowls are similar. And then set apart is the next 2, the 5th and 6th seal is separate, and the 5th and 6th trumpet is separate, and the 5th and 6th bowl is a little separate. And then they all end in the 7th with the climactic moment. The only really difference in the sequence of these 3 sevens is that with the seals and the trumpets, after the 6th, both after the 6th seal and the 6th trumpet, there was an interlude, another prophetic vision. That is not the case with the bowls. After the 6th, you simply move directly to the 7th. And they all kind of interconnect. So for instance, when the 7th seal was opened, that paved the way for the 7 trumpets. And when the 7th trumpet was blown, that opened the way for the 7 bowls. And so although they are not the same events, they do overlap and interconnect with one another and feed upon each other. All right, let's begin to look at these 7 bowls. We'll look at them quite quickly because they happen rather quickly. The first bowl is poured out, and ugly festering sores break out on the people who had the mark of the beast and worship the image. Now notice these sores that break out are only upon those who are part of the kingdom of the beast. God's people are protected. This might remind you, of course, of the plagues that afflicted Egypt when God was delivering the children of Israel in the book of Exodus. Remember, one of the plagues was boils that broke out upon the people. And also you will recall that in those plagues, generally the people of Israel were protected from them. The plagues only broke out upon the Egyptian empire and its people. And so here these sores break out, but only upon the kingdom of the beast and those who worship his image. The second angel pours out his bowl, and it says, the sea turned into blood like that of the dead person, and every living thing in the sea died. The third angel poured out his bowl on the rivers and springs of water, fresh water, and they became blood. Now notice this is also similar to one of the plagues. You remember when the Nile River was turned to blood, and the Egyptians suffered so. So here we have a repetition, as it were, of the same kind of plague. This is also similar to a couple of the trumpets. You remember when the second trumpet was blown, a third of the sea turned to blood. A third, not the whole. Now it's the whole. And when the third trumpet was blown, a third of the fresh waters turned bitter. So we have a similarity in these, but now it's complete. All of the sea turns to blood. All of the fresh water turns to blood. God's judgment's being poured out. Then there's a cry from the angel who says, "You are just in your judgments, O Holy One. For they, that is the kingdom of the beast, they have shed the blood of your holy people and of your prophets, and now you've given them blood to drink." So once again, we see that these plagues, these bowls of judgment, are only upon those who are part of the beast and his kingdom. God's people are protected. Then the fourth angel pours out his bowl, and it's on the sun, and the sun is allowed to scorch people with fire. Now, in some ways, this is similar to the 4th trumpet. The 4th trumpet also affected the sun and the natural light, but it did not cause scorching heat. In the trumpet, it caused the light to diminish. But now in the bowls of wrath, the sun becomes intensely hot and scorches people, but again, only the kingdom of the beast. It says they were seared by the intense heat, and they cursed the name of God who had control over these plagues. They refused to repent and glorify him. So once again, we see that the plagues, these bowls, are only upon the beast and his kingdom. The 5th angel pours out his bowl on the throne of the beast, directly on the kingdom of the beast, and is plunged into darkness. Now this is again similar to one of the plagues that afflicted Egypt. You remember when the darkness covered the land, but there was light in the land of Goshen, where the people of Israel were. But darkness afflicted Egypt. So now the beast kingdom is afflicted by darkness. And again it says the people gnaw their tongue in agony, which means they're angry with God, and they curse the God of heaven because of their pains and their sores, and they refuse to repent. Again, only the beast in his kingdom is afflicted. Then it says the sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up to prepare the way for the kings from the east. And then he said, I saw 3 frogs, impure frogs, that came out of the mouth of the dragon and of the false beast and of the false prophet. These are demons, and they go out to deceive by the performance of false signs, and they bring the kings to battle. So we have several things here. It says the Euphrates dries up to prepare the way of an invasion from the east. For Israel, the enemy always came from the east. And so that's sort of a symbolic understanding. That's where the enemy comes from. But here's the kings of the earth being rallied together by demonic forces. Remember we saw in the trumpets 5 and 6, the demonic plague upon the kingdom of the beast. And here we see it again. So we see this supernatural element in plague, that God allows these demons to afflict the beast in his kingdom and prepare them for war. That he's going to go on and say that's going to be the Battle of Armageddon. Now that's a significant theme. We're going to hold that for later because this comes up again in a few chapters. And then we get to the 7th bowl, the final one. And out of the temple comes a loud voice from the throne that says, "It is done." And there's a flash of lightning, there's rumbles of thunder, there's an earthquake, and the great city Babylon collapses. So this is the finality of judgment when God returns to claim his world. It's the second coming really has been talked about, although that's going to be referenced later. But as with all the seven seals and the 7 trumpets and the 7 bowls, they all end with that climactic moment when God says, "It's done, and my kingdom is established." In this bowl, the difference is that Babylon collapses. Now, this is the second mention of Babylon. It was mentioned once before, a couple of chapters back, by one of the angels in heaven saying, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great." Babylon is the kingdom of the beast. We're beginning to realize that. And now it's mentioned again that in that final bowl, Babylon collapses. Now, as we get into our session next time, we're going to see that John turns his attention to how Babylon falls, how the kingdom of the beast falls. But we'll save that for next time. But what we've seen today is that these bowls represent the plagues of God and the climactic moment of punishment upon those who refuse to turn to him, who refuse to believe. Ultimately, if you will not believe, judgment has to come. God's patience does not last forever. And so these bowls are a warning, but also a call to repent before it's too late. Okay, tomorrow we'll start looking, or next time we'll start looking at the fall of Babylon in a little more detail. Hope you have a great day today. I hope you know the blessing of the Lord with you, and I hope it is a wonderful day of walking with the Lamb who keeps us secure. And I'll see you next time for our next 5-minute Bible study.